They believed that the king actually wanted Vashti to appear before all of these noble princes and officials and the king himself, appear all before them while they're drunk, completely naked.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the second episode of Out of the Shallows. So guys, today we get to dive into our very first book, which I'm very excited about. And I'm actually really excited to say the book that we're going to be going through, and that is the book of Esther. Yeah.
I promise I did not force him. I did not coerce him.
No.
People think this is a chick's book, but you were actually the one.
Yeah.
That was like, we need to study the book of Esther.
Guys, I chose to do this. This was on my own accord. My wife did not make me do this. I actually wanted to go through this book. Yeah, I wanted to go through this book.
So all we're saying is, dudes, don't back out on us.
Yes.
If you're tuning in, if you're listening, just because we're going through the book of Esther first, this was Alec's choice. This was a dude's choice. So
actually the book of Esther, thank you for saying that, because you're absolutely right. I think a lot of dudes think that this is more of like a female's book just because the title.
And I think every conference sweater ever, like women's conference sweater ever is like, for such a time as this.
Yes. No.
Printed all over it.
Which is a very cool line, but yeah, I totally agree with you. It is something that is overplayed, but Esther is a very fascinating book, and it has so many interesting elements in it. There's so many interesting characters, and there are like two characters that are basically playing chess the whole time. But we've done a lot of fun research on this actual book. And guys, I think that you're going to look at the book of Esther completely different from here on. And there's so many fun facts, so many just fascinating things that are happening throughout history. But without further ado, let's go right ahead and let's jump on in. Now, guys, we're about to start reading out of the New Living Translation, and it's the book of Esther. So you can just find that in your Bible or on your Bible app or wherever. You can read along with us, or of course, we're just going to be reading today. But before we even jump into this first book, Babe, can you just share some of the cool facts or interesting facts just to give a little bit more context of the book of Esther?
And we can buy you guys a little bit of time while you try to find it. So the book of Esther, it is actually usually positioned as the last of the 5 scrolls in Hebrew manuscripts. And so there's like 5 books, and these books were always read at different Jewish festivals, and the book of Esther is one of them. And so the other books that are in that lineup are Songs of Songs, Ruth, Lamentations, Ecclesiastes, and Esther. And so Esther, the genre of this book, historical. The setting, 470 years before Christ, so 470 BC. Yeah, yep. And it's actually only 10 chapters long. So it's quite short. It packs a punch. And I was doing some research because I was like, is this one of the shortest books in the Bible? It is actually the 35th shortest book in the entire Bible.
Oh, yes, you guys, you're welcome. We did not want to bring the shortest book to you. We did not want to bring the longest book to you. We wanted to bring you the 35th shortest book in the Bible. Is there anything else you want to share for context before we get started?
It's really fascinating because this is actually, even though it's the 35th shortest book in the Bible, not very notable or anything like that, it is actually one of the only books in the Bible that never explicitly mentions God. And so That's never actually see God explicitly mentioned. And it's kind of cool because even as we're reading through this, as his non-appearance is so clear, it kind of makes us search for his appearance more. Like, God, where are you working? Where are you working in this? Because we can't see you explicitly sending angels here and doing this there. So how are you working and where are you working?
That's one of the fascinating things about this book is how God is not mentioned. And it's actually a good way for us to remember in our own lives whenever we don't see God working, and it's a really maybe tragic time or really tough time, that he actually is working. And it's our job to actually try to see where we can find God working, even though he may not be visually showing up or audibly showing up. He is actually still working things out. And
That's so good.
Yeah, and this book is a very interesting book. It's going to take a lot of twists and turns. There's lots of interesting climactic scenes. There's lots of interesting moments where like there's plot twists. It's very, very interesting, and it's actually very applicable to today. But let's stop talking about it and let's just read. So guys, once again, we're going to be reading from the New Living Translation, and we're going to start off with just chapter 1 here, The King's Banquet.
Late night DJ voice.
You're right. Lower voice might actually be better. Chapter 1, The King's Banquet, the Book of Esther. These events happen in the days of King Xerxes, who reigned over 127 provinces stretching from India to Ethiopia. At that time, Xerxes ruled his empire from his royal throne in the fortress of Susa.
Okay, hold up 1 second.
Okay.
So 127 provinces stretching from India to Ethiopia. India was referring to where the Indus River drained. And so if we have a look at where the Indus River drains, it's actually in modern day Pakistan. It's very, very close to the border of India. So we're actually looking from like midway Pakistan, close to the border of India, all the way to Kush, which Kush is what some translations say, others say Ethiopia. But if you want to know, Kush is actually, or Ethiopia back then, referred to the south of Egypt, which is actually the northern part of Sudan. And so at this period of time, this is the largest empire to have ever existed in the entire world. So up until this date, there has been no other empire as large as this.
That's so good. So it's raging from basically India all the way over to Egypt. Where was I? All right, verse 3. In the 3rd year of his reign, he gave a banquet for all of his noble officials. He invited all the military officers of Persia, as well as the princes and nobles of the provinces. The celebration lasted 180 days, a tremendous display of the opulent wealth of his empire and the pomp and splendor of his majesty.
We got to talk about this king, because that is a huge banquet.
So this is a massive banquet. And then also it even goes on to say here as well, it says, when it was all over, the king gave a banquet for all the people from the greatest to the least who were in the fortress of Susa. It lasted 7 days and was held in the courtyard of the palace garden. Okay, so I've been holding off a little bit, but we do need to talk about a little bit more of Xerxes. People who know a little bit of history, you guys might have already been picking this up, or if people have maybe seen a movie that came out years ago called 300.
We watched that on our honeymoon, fun fact.
We actually did. Anyways, King Xerxes. So King Xerxes is actually the king that is in 300. So if you have seen the movie 300, he is this crazy man who believes that he is a god king.
He's honestly a little bit terrifying. He's got tattoos all over his face, piercings everywhere, and this like super like kind of like divine complex. I don't know how to like put that in words.
So I mean, you just said earlier that it was the largest empire that ever existed, and yes, it was the largest empire that ever existed. Actually, he went ahead as soon as he gets into power. He goes and he actually overtakes a few different areas, and then actually this banquet. The reason why this is such a big banquet is because he's actually hosting, and it already says how he's invited all these military officials, and he's drawing together all of these armies, because at this point in history, what he's about to do is he's about to go try to take down Greece. So he's about to go and attack Greece, which Greece was an area that, was a very, very just powerful region during that time. Of course, you had in there the Spartans.
So he's going to attack the Spartans.
Well, he's not exactly just going to attack the Spartans. What he's doing is he's trying to take over all of Greece. And so, there's not just Sparta and Greece. There's Athens. There's all these other places, and that's where democracy was made. Greece was. That's where all these other amazing architectural things came from. But the Greeks were also known as these crazy good warriors. It wasn't just the Spartans, but the Spartans were the elite of the elite.
Well, I think you feel a bond with them because you are, like, your heritage is Greek, Sicilian. And so, I mean, you look Sicilian, so you feel this like bond to the Spartans.
I do. But guys, I want you to just literally think about throughout this entire book. I want you to think, whenever you hear about Xerxes, I want you to think of this crazy man who is a
God king,
power-hungry man. He is known as a god king, correct?
Well, his name literally means to rule over men and heroes.
Yeah. So, I mean, there you go. Like, even just that name is like this like power name, and like trying to like, just establish like dominion. But anyways, he is bringing everyone together right now because he's about to launch an invasion on a place that could not be conquered before. His father actually even tried to conquer Greece, but it could not be conquered. And he's pulling everyone together for this massive military campaign. Well,
banquets are actually when news and announcements were made. And so it makes sense that he would be gathering everyone together, at least in ancient Persian societies. Banquets were the place where things were announced. So it all makes sense. So
a lot of great context. So let's go right ahead and let's continue to read.
Okay, I'm going to jump in from verse 6. The courtyard was beautifully decorated with white cotton curtains and blue hangings, which were fastened with white linen cords and purple ribbons to silver rings embedded in marble pillars. Gold and silver couches stood on a mosaic pavement of, I'm going to butcher this, guys, porphyry, I think, maybe, I don't know, forgive me, marble, mother of pearl, and other costly stones. Drinks were served in gold goblets of many designs, and there was an abundance of royal wine, reflecting the king's generosity. By edict of the king, no limits were placed on the drinking, for the king had instructed all his palace officials to serve each man as much as he wanted. So this God King is also, he's kind of showing off all of his wealth, all of his splendor, all of his abundance. Did you know that it was custom back then that you could only drink when the king was drinking? And so you basically had to stop drinking when the king stopped. So for him to say, drink as much as you want, it's just another symbol that there was so much indulgence.
Wow. Yeah. Just,
way beyond custom.
Just so much power. Again, he's just a man who, I mean, he has all these amazing wealth, like all these mother of pearl and all this gold and all these things. So once again, just setting up the stakes here. Again, he's about to go into this war campaign. He's really excited. He's getting everybody as well. He's getting drunk. I mean, obviously, like everyone's drinking so much. And yeah, let's go right ahead.
Well, we're about to find out that he was in fact drunk. So verse 9. At the same time, Queen Vashti gave a banquet for the women in the royal palace of King Xerxes. On the 7th day of the feast, when King Xerxes was in high spirits because of the wine, he told the 7 eunuchs who attended him, Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, Abigatha, Zetha, and Carcass. I feel like we need to write some of these down as like future baby names.
Oh my gosh, no.
To bring Queen Vashti to him with the royal crown on her head. He wanted the nobles and all the other men to gaze on her beauty, for she was a very beautiful woman. But when they conveyed the king's order to Queen Vashti, she refused to come. And this made the king furious, and he burned with anger.
Okay, so he requests her to come. He sends people to go get her, and she refuses to come.
My name is, no, my sign is, no, my number is, no.
No, yeah, exactly. Yes. I don't fully know that song. No, I
Meghan
don't.
Trainor?
Okay. Oh, actually, yes, I do. I actually do. So, but no. Anyways, so we found out something pretty interesting here of even why she said no. And I think it'd be interesting even for you to explain this.
Yeah, absolutely. I can jump in. So the rabbis back then, they believed that the king actually wanted Vashti to appear before all of these noble princes and officials, and the king himself, appear all before them while they're drunk, completely naked. Only wearing the tiara or the crown on her head.
Completely
and that
naked?
Is it. Mm-hmm.
Seriously? Mm-hmm. Wow.
And so some sources say that the queens were actually normally excluded from social occasions where drunkenness and bad behavior were featured, like this potential banquet. And so that's why she had her separate banquet. And so when Vashti actually refused to come, some rabbis say it was actually to defend her own dignity. But I mean, the way that she handled it by just saying no blatantly to the king in front of all the most important people right before a military campaign.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't seem wise. Like there must have been other ways to do it.
Oh yeah, no, of course. I mean, baby, if you asked me to show up to, one of your ladies' nights naked, I would also want to say no. But yeah, no.
Absolutely no.
But no. Yes, she should not have showed up naked. There probably could have been some way that maybe she could have still honored him, or some way that she could have still, like, I don't know, just didn't make it a like flat out no, but there might have been.
I mean, King Xerxes is angry.
Yeah.
And we're about to find out what he does with all this anger.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so this is definitely setting the stage well here. So we're not sure if that was a smart thing to do or not, but I'm just going to go right ahead and I'm just going to keep reading. Verse 13. He immediately consulted with his wise advisors, who knew all the Persian laws and customs, for he always asked their advice. The names of these men were...
Oh, good luck.
Yep. Again, if you have a child named this way, just please forgive us. All right. So here we go. Karshina, Shabthar, Admitha, Tarshish, Meres,
Okay.
Marsina, Memuka, or
Memucan.
Memucan. That's much better. That sounds so much more beautiful. 7 nobles of Persia and Media. They met with the king regularly and held the highest position in the empire. What must be done to Queen Vashti? The king demanded. What penalty does the law provide for a queen who refuses to obey the king's orders properly sent through his eunuchs?
Oh my gosh, do not mess with the eunuchs,
No,
folks.
I mean, honestly, he's got a point here. If you send it through the eunuchs, that is the proper way of doing things. So, but anyways, Memucan answered the king and his nobles. Queen Vashti has wronged not only the king, but also every noble and citizen throughout your empire. Women everywhere will begin to despise their husbands when they learn that Queen Vashti has refused to appear before the king. Before this day is out, the wives of all the king's nobles throughout Persia and Media will hear what Queen Vashti did and will start treating their husbands the same way. There will be no end to their contempt and anger.
That's crazy. And that actually might sound super severe, what Memucan is saying, but you gotta understand that ancient Persian society, it was an honor-based culture. And so basically that means that if you shamed someone in this honor-based culture, it was a grave offense. As in, like Memucan, as he's saying here, it could literally tear apart the social fabric. 'Cause the one thing that knit them together, men to women, women to authority, men to authority, was this honor, an honor-based society and tiers and hierarchy and all of that. And so
you're basically saying they had like a strong belief that if certain honors weren't upheld, that it would just literally tear apart the actual society. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So then I'll go right ahead and I'll just keep reading here. So this is Memucan again talking. So if this pleases the king, we suggest that you issue a written decree, a law of Persian and Medes that cannot be revoked. It should be ordered that Queen Vashti be forever banished from the presence of King Xerxes, and that the king should choose another queen more worthy than she. When this decree is published throughout the king's vast empire, husbands everywhere, whatever their rank, will receive the proper respect from their wives.
wow.
The king and his nobles thought this made good sense. So he followed Memucan's counsel. He sent letters to all parts of the empire, to each province in its own script and language, proclaiming that every man should be the ruler of his own home and should say whatever pleases him.
You know, this is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, wow, that was very, very strong. It was a very, very strong response.
But I think it's even crazier because honestly, I kind of feel like we're seeing a similar thing today, and not necessarily harsh decrees or anything like that from this God King. But what we are seeing is just this unhealthy struggle between man and woman, between male and female. And it just makes me think that it really goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden. Like it really is an ancient struggle. And what do I mean by the Garden of Eden is because the very first punishments that were given to Adam and to Eve for disobeying the Lord and for eating from the forbidden fruit was to Eve that she would desire to control her husband.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
so this is
yeah.
an ancient power struggle that we are reading about in Esther, and we're also reading about in today's news articles. Like it has just always been there throughout history. And it's crazy to me because I do look at the narrative today, and it's not so much that women will cause contempt and anger with men. What we're seeing today is that men are toxic and that they are demeaning and they are dominant and they are violent and emotionally illiterate and mansplaining and manspreading, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like the attack now is even a little bit more on masculinity in a way. It's interesting to me that this has been something that has gone throughout culture since really the beginning of time.
I mean, you're saying it perfect. It's almost like you need to give compassion to both sides, knowing that, hey, this is legit like a curse that is on humanity, that there is going to be a constant rub here. And it almost gives you, like I said, this compassion towards both sides of understanding like, hey, you're already working from a like, what am I trying to say?
Like a disadvantage.
Yeah, you're already working from a disadvantage. And it
But
just goes to show you that it's so important to remember to not try to overpower each other, but to work with each other's giftings.
Even when we want to overpower one another.
Yeah.
Because we were woman was really literally taken from the side of man, from the rib of a man. Like we were always designed to work together.
Yeah.
And so, no, I think that's so good. So good. And so to wrap up chapter 1, because we are at the end of chapter 1, what we do know is that we need a new character because Queen Vashti has been dethroned.
Yep.
And we need a new main character. And guess what? That new character, she is going to be a woman.
Yeah,
Spoiler alert.
I honestly have no idea what that name of that person could be. But, this is a good area to wrap today. And, we can just pick this up next week. I mean, everyone, we are so thankful that you even tuned in. We're so thankful. And we hope that even just in chapter 1, it got you excited. That already you're like, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is so cool. Like, I didn't know this piece of history. I didn't know maybe this thing or that thing. Like, guys, we want you to get excited as you read it. We hope that it brings the stories to life for you. And also, then you can share these weird facts or interesting facts with your friends.
Weird and wonderful facts.
Yeah, and you can just sound, cooler to them or whatnot. But guys, anyways, thank you so much again for tuning in today. Make sure just to leave us a comment. Like, this is a brand new podcast, so we want to hear from you guys. We want to hear your reviews. We want to hear your feedback. We want to hear everything. So go right ahead, leave us a comment. It's so helpful for us. And make sure to like and subscribe so then if you want to hear more of this, it'll be right in your inbox next week. It'll be right where you can get it wherever you're listening or watching. So thank you guys so much again for tuning in. We're so appreciative, and we'll see you next time here at Out of the Shallows.